Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, e buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to our instant reaction pod. Consider this a little bit of stoppage time as we review Inter Lazio. Coming off a nice undefeated streak, 6 matches unbeaten, 4 straight clean sheets. Despite the good vibes, the punching above our weight, we knew that we'd eventually come crashing down to earth, Caleb. So here we are on the heels of a 2-0 defeat to Inter. How you doing this Sunday?
Well, I'm not so bummed about the result itself. It's been just a tough sporting weekend for me. Charlotte FC eliminated from the playoffs. Carolina Panthers having a stinker today, and then of course Lazio losing. But I would say Lazio losing was the least painful, the most simply because we're the heavy underdogs coming into this match, and so getting a draw would have been ecstatic. Getting a win would have been a miracle. But a loss is not really something that was outside of the realm of possibility this weekend.
Yeah. Man, I feel the same way. Honestly, one of those losses that I'm like, whatever, man. Like, it's a Sunday. It's nice weather here in Vegas. Completely expected this. I think anybody that is actually paying attention to this Lazio side knows that we are overperforming based on the quality of players that we've got, the injury situation. Nobody with any sort of brain expected us to go into San Siro and come away with 3 points. Obviously, we would have been thrilled with a draw, but I'd say things are looking pretty good. If anything, I looked at this one as an opportunity to knock Roma down a peg. So we maybe did the world a favor by letting Inter have this one so that they could find themselves at top of the table after Roma won their match today. So, either way, it was going to be a win-win for us. So can't be too upset with how things went. But let's jump into this one. I still think there's a lot of interesting things that I want to dive into. So a starting 11 here that was exactly the same starting 11 that we saw last week against Cagliari. So you've got, of course, Provedel, Marusic, Romagnoli, Gila, Lazzari, your midfield Basic, Cataldi, Gendouzi, and then your trio, Dia, leading the line with Zaccagni to his left and Isaacson to the right. And unfortunately, we barely got to settle into this one without immediately having to suffer. Isaacson on that right side, he's dropping back. He's got the ball at his feet. He's got 2 defenders on him. Doesn't really see an option, and then his pocket is picked. It is a really soft moment from him. The ball gets to Lautaro with a perfect strike in the far corner. Nothing Provedel could have done. And then really 18th minute, we actually saw a little bit of life coming from Zaccagni, who seemed to be the catalyst. If anything was going to happen for Lazio, it would have come from Zaccagni. Cataldi switching a play. Nice ball to him. Zaccagni takes the space with the defender on him, has a crack at it, but it soars over the crossbar. And then in the 62nd minute, DiMarco plays an absolutely pinpoint pass across goal, finds Boni, who taps it in despite Romagnoli being there. It's a wonderful goal and really a display of the quality that Inter has. And then in the 66th minute, Zielinski, too much time on the ball to strike, and strikes. He does. It finds the back of the net, but after a review, goes to VAR. It is deemed no goal after there was a handball early in the buildup. So Lazio finding themselves with a little bit of an opportunity. And then in the 77th minute, Gila with a fantastic header from a beautiful cross in off of a set piece. Ball hits the crossbar, bounces down, hits the line. It's about 3/4 over the line, but not enough to be deemed a goal. And that's essentially it. We see this one finish 2-0. Caleb, give me your 3 words or less to describe this match.
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. For me, the three words are difference of quality. I think just,
Bro, we
I
said the
mean,
exact almost word for word. So I'm gonna just let you run. Mine was gap in quality.
yeah.
That's it.
I mean, it is the same thing. It's just, particularly when it comes to the midfield and attacking lines right now, I do think, and fullbacks. I mean, the only thing that I think we can sort of compete with on quality or is our center back pairing of Romagnoli and Providel's also been very good lately. So I would add him into that conversation. Um, and Gila. And so outside of those two players, and who we have on the bench, or I guess just out completely injured, um, Zakanyi may be right there. Someone that's a high quality attacker as well that could maybe play on this inter side if he was switched over. Point is, just completely outclassed in almost every position, and especially in the midfield, where the midfield is where you a lot of times games are won and lost in the midfield, and the tempo is set by the midfield. I think that the team did really as good as it could have, especially considering how we started. Like conceding 2 minutes in, I was like, "Oh Lord, is this going to be? Are we in for a match like last season where we just got spanked and just we had a decent start and then just collapsed and then we let in 6 goals? Like I thought, I was like, man, are we in for another sort of embarrassment of a match? But I thought that the players, put together a decent enough performance to have a bit of dignity in the match. I still think by no means we were the better team. Inter completely outclassed us, I think, in every way. But with that said, I do think that we stalled and put in a good effort, good in a fight, despite the being shaken up at that start. So I couldn't really have asked too much more. I think all the other sort of shortcomings in this match, I think really more came so from Dia getting another start. I don't think that helped us, and just a few moments of individual quality. Because even on that mistake, Latauda had to beat some people, and it wasn't like it was a little tap in front of the box. Lautaro Martinez still had to put in quite a shot to get through those three or so bodies that were in front of him. And then DiMarco, of course, put a pinpoint pass. I can't really blame much of anybody on that. That was just, again, perfect signals of a difference in quality. 2 moments where that quality just shows and makes a difference in the game.
Yeah, here's a run through of the stats because I find it really interesting. When you watch the match, it's clear Inter is the better side. You said this. Not only are they the better side on paper, but like you watched the match and it was clear that they were the better side today as well, and certainly deserving of all 3 points. But when I looked at the statistics, I was actually surprised at how close it was
Yeah.
comparatively, like compared to the eye test. Possession 54% possession for Inter. They had a 1.91 expected goal. We had 0.68. Same number of shots on both sides. 8 shots for Inter, 8 shots for Lazio. Inter had 3 shots on target. Lazio had 5 shots on target. Inter with 2 big chances, only one of those missed. Lazio 1 big chance, that 1 chance missed. So Lazio also, in terms of how many fouls were committed, and we can talk about how aggressive Inter was. They had 26 fouls in this one, and I'll be honest, should have been a boatload more of yellows from their side, which could have affected the match. Now they did have a couple of them, and some of those players were subbed off. But I think when you look at the statistics, it goes to a lot of like what we'll end up diving in and talking about. Like really, a pretty valiant effort, but for the most part, and some players holding us back. But I thought this is exactly the template that we have talked about at nauseum week over week. Like if we're going to put ourselves in positions to compete and get 3 points, particularly against some of these big sides, it's all about like keeping it close, being smart defensively. Like we're not going to play this fluid football, and it's taking advantage of the opportunities when they come and on the counter. Unfortunately, today we started 2-3 minutes in by shooting ourselves in the foot, and that just kind of changes everything. So, I just really a gap in quality, and I saw a couple tweets that I just wholeheartedly disagreed with. I saw a few folks saying, "Hey, this was a Kivu masterclass," or outclassing Sari. Like,
Right.
just absolutely way off the mark. Couldn't be more off the mark, right? Oh, Inter was able to play their football and Lazio was slow in possession. We are a slow team. We are one of the oldest teams in Serie A, and we are a team that concedes possession in almost every single match, whether they are against a big side or a small side. This is the Lazio of today. We concede possession. We're fine doing that. We're kind of a low mid block team now, and we're really focused on buckling down, having that defensive solidity, and then capitalizing on a counter. And what Inter did really well today was playing really aggressive and fouling the heck out of us anytime we did have any sort of momentum. So Zaccagni, by the end of this match, you saw his kit; it was completely black. I mean, that Zaccagni was fouled time and time again, and despite any effort he had, it was they were really doing a good job of focusing on him, fouling him, being really aggressive. Their press to start the match is what got Isaacson in trouble, and ultimately that kind of changed things. But I don't think by any means anything that I saw from the way Kivu had his side playing. If anything, I was pretty. I think they should have done better. Right? They didn't really create a ton of opportunities. It really was an Isaacson blunder that still required Lautaro absolutely having a crack at it. Right? We didn't even have a chance for Provedel to do something. An outstretched Donnarumma couldn't have saved that shot. Yep. And then that pass, you said it, that pass by Di Marco, I went in and took screenshots of it because it was picture. I was trying to see Romagnoli's positioning, and Romagnoli, for the most part, was right there, and Provedel is outstretched, and that ball is placed so perfect on a dime. Boni there does well to make his run, taps it in, and you look at that, and it's obviously the game. So I don't know. Am I off the mark? Like, do you feel like tactically Kivu outclassed Sarri?
No. Like I understand that Lazio very much not in the same boat of like a Pisa or something like that, where we're relegation side. But at this point, I would equate us really to like a Torino or something like that. Someone that's kind of hanging around the 7th, 8th, 9th spots, a mid-table team. And if Inter come in and beat Torino, no one's saying like, oh man, what a complete masterclass. People are just saying, oh, Inter did what they had to do. And as sad as it is to say that, for us, that's the reality that we're in. That's a whole other conversation, is the fact that we are in a position where we see ourselves as such big underdogs, and that gap is just so huge, is unfortunate. And that's a whole other conversation of why we're in this position to begin with, but that's where we're at right now. And I think
it wasn't like Inter was running up on us, right? It wasn't like, man, we were just
the first 20 minutes we were getting smoked, I will say.
And then after that,
once the game settled, like, of course Inter's gonna have some of the ball. Yes, Inter were very much a more physical side. My only sort of gripe from this match was Inter had a midweek match and still looked like the more energetic team to me, which again falls back to Sarri and how we have like 5 or 6 guys out with muscle injuries, and we come into this match completely fresh, and we start slow. I mean, I know the goal didn't help, but every single ball, every single sprint, every single 50-50, Inter were first, not because of quality, just because they literally hustled more in the beginning, and throughout the match they look like the fitter team. So that's all things that I think fall back to that questioning of what is Sarri doing in training, what's the medical staff doing, that we're coming out in the match and looking more lethargic than an Inter team who had to play midweek. Again, that's another conversation, but this game was very much Inter did what they had to do. They got those goals. We put up a decent fight. It was closer than probably should have been. If I were an Inter fan, I would be like, this game could have easily been like a 3-4-0 win at this point. But
and it's clear that for anybody that thinks, hey, look, it was 2-0, it was a clear 2-0 victory, and you're not going to get in a disagreement from either one of us. But this isn't the Lazio side of 2 years ago, or even last year where we had that hot streak. Like, this is a side that is absolutely a mid-table team. There's nothing to write home about for beating us 2-0 again in a match that was like, like you were the better side, but it
And
wasn't a great performance.
even last season was more of a case of I think last season's thumping was a more kind of say that comment on Twitter is more fitting for last season's Inter match because we were like in those top 6 spots, like we were actually competing and hanging around the top 4, and we were at that point, we play Inter, who's also trying to kind of compete with Napoli. Inter were not number 1 throughout the whole season either. They were also sort of trying to get a hold of the title race. I think there's a stronger case to last year of that thumping being more of a, yeah, you got completely outclassed and outcoached, right? Rather this year, we're sitting in 8th, whatever it is now at this point. Congrats, like
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any weight to that at all. But I will say, Inter's coach has impressed me. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was gonna be sort of a stopgap to sort of a what can I say, a scapegoat for Inter. They lost the final in Champions League, got thumped by PSG. I thought this coach that came in, what his name's escaping. What's his name? Kivu. So I thought he was going to be a scapegoat, but he's really settled the ship at Inter, steered the ship. They look solid. They don't look all that much different from their game plan last season. But with that said, he was by far not the reason that they won the game. He was not the reason they won.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about, some of the things that held us back, but, like we usually do, we'll start with our man of the match on the positive side. Who'd you have as yours?
This is a tough one because I think a lot of our results come from just team efforts and just as a unit. Right now, individuals are tough to stand out by, but I think Zaccagni, despite everything and getting fouled over and over again, had a somewhat dangerous game at times. He had a nice little shot at that one moment when he kind of cut in on there. Maybe what am I? I mean, I don't think anyone was deserving of man of the match. This match, to be honest, I don't think anyone was particularly a huge standout for me. Really, the biggest standout for me was when Noslin came in and was like, "Oh my gosh, we're getting some life from the striker position." I'm gonna say Noslin simply for the fact that that chance, that header that we got, that was after Noslin came into the match. Like it did, like those last 20 minutes when Noslin came in, it did seem like we were able to kind of put together some attacks and get some chances and look a little bit more cohesive in possession. So I'm gonna give it to Noslin simply because he's been like in the dog pound under Saudi for whatever reason, and he got an early sub in, and he showed moments of competency. How do you say that word? Competency.
Competence. Yeah.
Competence. Like, and maybe that's probably more a sign of how bad Dia has been. But I would give it to Noslin because I thought he was pretty lively when he came on.
Okay, I like that. I went pretty on the nose with this. Honestly, both my answers are going to be exactly the same as Cagliari, but for me, it was Zaccagni, and he created the most chances in this one, having created 4 chances. He was the most fouled player in the match, 8 times, and he won the most duels in this match. And that's not just for Lazio; that's on both sides. Created the most chances, was the most fouled player, and won the most duels. Won 10 duels in this one. So for me, again, he has been the focal point for defenses. Today it was very evident that they were incredibly physical with him. And, he's unfortunately, he has to take these moments on himself, and wish he would have gotten it on frame, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't like, it was a pass that was laid off to him that he didn't get on frame. So yeah, for me, I know it's frustrating, and at the end of the day, everybody's just going to look at the statistics. But when we're watching these games and there's very little creativity, and then kind of segueing to the bidone, for me, once again, it's Dia. And you look at any space, there's no space creation from him. There's nothing that takes the pressure off of Zaccagni or Isaacson. Right. He's clumsy with his feet. I put in my notes, he's Murici 2.0, if not worse. Like
Mm,
it's really he's really causing us like with all the challenges that we already have to create. He is
mm,
absolutely a weight that is keeping this side down. And I love that you shouted out Noslin because my hope, he literally all he did was receive a pass and didn't fumble it and passed it back and it was clean and I got excited, which tells
mm,
you how bad things are with Dia. So my hope is that Sari saw that
mm.
and is like, look, it just can't get any worse. Why not against Lecce? Throw Noslin in, see what happens, give him a little bit of a run, and ultimately, like it just can't get any worse. So
Look, I'm looking now. Dia generated 0 xG or expected assists, 0 in 65 minutes, 0. Not a single shot from him all game either. I mean, because obviously the way you get 0 xG is you don't shoot the ball. So Nelson actually had like it's funny because I was looking at the mob stats and
mm-hmm.
there's not even an xG statistic on the Dia page because he literally didn't generate anything whatsoever. There's
Crazy.
not a shot map. There's not an xG. Nothing. You go to Nelson. There's at least a little shot there. Um, yeah, it
But
shocks me.
even the way he presses is so annoying. Like today, I'm watching him, and his pressing is so half-ass that you, as a goalkeeper or a center back, you know he's gonna pull up. Like he's just pressing, but every single time he starts getting soft on his press way too early, so there's really no pressure. It's wasted energy on his point. So it's just like those things he's not even bringing to the table. At least if you're gonna press, then press and put
And
some pressure on the defense. But
right,
yeah,
exactly. Even at a time where Tati, was going through a bad stretch, not finishing, we're getting frustrated. How many times can you think of Tati like just poking the ball out from a
yeah,
defender and starting a
yep.
counter, right? Like the
Right. So a
very
keeper
least, you
or a
had
center
that.
back has to worry. Like when they see Tati charging at them, they know they better get rid of the ball.
You better get it right because he's gonna poke that ball out. So even that, right, at the very least, but like you said, Diaz not even providing that at this point, and that's my biggest gripe during this stretch. And I think Sadi has done it simply because hey, we're unbeaten. Like, why change up? It's not
Yep.
broken, but it's like we're unbeaten. This is a great momentum, man. We could probably get an inch or two a better level if you swap a guy out, right? Like we're not gonna lose anything, so why not just throw Nelson in there? I mean, yeah. My I would say my Bedonia of the match this game was Isaksen.
Mm.
A because he he gave up. When a team like when you have quality like Inter does, you can't even allow them a sniff of a chance, right? Like even though Lautaro had to do a little bit extra work to finish that goal, you can't allow Lautaro a chance in the box like that to be able to even take a shot, right? Like same thing with DeMarco. The way you stop that is you just gotta close him down so he doesn't have the space and time to hit that pass, right? Like you can't have Lautaro, you can't give Lautaro the time and space to hit that shot at times, right? So Isaksen, just really handicapped the team, and you know. If Saxon doesn't give up that goal and we don't have to push up a little bit more, I think there's a good chance we can scrape out a draw in this match. I think there's a good chance we can just hang in there 0-0 for a while. Maybe Inter scores, offer some quality, but I think maybe we get one back, go 1-1 at the very worst. I do think that was just completely it was devastating for the team and the effort because as we saw, like we could hang around and make it difficult for Inter to at least try and push for that draw on the road. But when you give up a goal 2 minutes in when you're on the road, you have really handicapped your team. You chopped off the team's legs at that point. And so that was just unbelievably stupid from Isaksen and critical. I do think the odds of us getting a draw drastically increase. And I think there's a good chance we can get a draw out of this if we don't have that early bluff from Isaksen. But not only did he give up the goal, he was completely ineffective in the attack today. So he gave up the goal, and it's one thing to give up the goal and like, okay, at least create chances, get that goal back, right? At least try and create some chances, create some danger, shut down. Part of the reason why Zaccagni had to do everything is because nothing was coming from Isaacson today. Nothing. They didn't complete any dribbles this game. I mean, just successful dribbles 0. 50% on some of these accurate long balls. Dispossessed a few times. Defensively wasn't all that great either. Yeah, I mean, Isaacson was completely ineffective today, in addition to giving up a goal. So not only are you giving up a goal, you're also not an asset to your team to try him out and come back. So for me, it was Isaacson, 1,000%.
Yeah, and it's fair. Again, you make a mistake like that, but then he's just as invisible in the attack today as Adia, particularly when you think about small things that Zaccagni at least was able to do despite having all the attention. I think about the 87th minute. Zaccagni plays a nice through ball to Pellegrini, who's really kind of forced to take that shot near post, and nobody's in the box making that run for him. But Zaccagni's at least making some of those passes or earning fouls. And really tough one from Isaacson. Will be interesting to see when and if Cancellieri comes back, what happens with that position, right? Because I think this is kind of the story of Isaacson so far with Lazio. Is he's got these highs, and then all of a sudden when it's bad, it's bad. And he's such an inconsistent player. So I can only imagine just knowing Sarri and what he expects out of all of his players, making those mistakes. I don't know. I feel like he'll be quick to pull the trigger on that. You think about all the times like how hard he was on Pellegrini and not wanting to play Pellegrini because just one mistake and that's that. So will be interesting to see. Let's talk about this Lazio side because we've got a couple weeks now, so we're going into international break. We don't play again until November 23rd, which sees us play Lecce. We've got a run of fixtures. We've got Lecce, and then the week after we'll have Milan, and then Milan again in Coppa Italia. So little bit of a break here. I don't exactly know where people are with their health. I think there's maybe a possibility we see Tati. It was a surprise to have Romagnoli today, so that's a positive. He was able to play. He wasn't hurt. And yeah, so
I'll add this to that. I'm just normally Bob does a pretty decent job of giving timelines for injuries, based on reports and stuff. And it looks like most of the guys, Cancellieri, Castellanos, Rovella, Tavares, it says mid-November. For Rovella, it says he was actually doubtful for today. So it looks like Rovella might be the closest of the bunch, but I don't know about that.
Yeah,
and it says mid to late November for Castellanos and Cancellieri. So,
okay.
But okay. I don't know how much truth there's that, but I do think, I mean, it is nice to have an extra 2 weeks for these guys to, maybe have them for a few more games, 1 or 2 more games this season.
Yeah, well, we know Rovella wasn't called up, obviously, for international duty, given his injury. I've seen conflicting reports. I've seen things that, it's more serious. I've unfortunately seen some stuff about maybe surgery is needed and not needed. And so it can't seem to have a clean picture for when his return will be. But I do think that Tati is more around the corner as well as Cancellieri. So let's say this. Let's say here we go. We've got until the 23rd, week and a half. What is that? Week and a half, 2 weeks. We've got Tati. We've got Cancellieri. What are you thinking this side looks like? I mean, it goes without saying, like Tati is, I don't care if Tati's got one leg. He's going to be back in the starting 11 over Dia. But, on that right side with Cancellieri and just kind of how you see us playing, right? I just feel like we've been this specific side now for so long. I almost forget what it's going to look like with Tati. So who do you think should start at that right wing position? And then what do you think we even look like? Are we still playing this same type of, sit back counter with Tati and potentially a player like Cancellieri?
I want to actually start this by reading just a quick quote from Sadi himself on the center forward position. He said, "At the moment, we don't have a center forward. The only one could be Castellanos, while the others are all guys who interpret the role differently. We are
Hmm.
certainly paying for something inside the area." So he the only real center forward in his words, he sees on this team is Tati as a proper center forward, a guy who can be dangerous in the box. Um, so that makes me even more upset that he's starting Dia because he doesn't even see Dia to have those qualities. Like if he was see Dia, both Dia and Nelson are in the same category according to Sadi's word. But obviously Tati's going to come in. The reason I don't think we're going to play Sadi ball at any point in this season is not because of our front three. Sadi ball is not dictated by the front three; it's dictated by the midfield three. That it is a midfield three that dictate how this team will play. And the reality is, even with Ravella back, Ravella, Guendouzi, and whoever it is that we run as our third center mid there, whether it's Cataldi, whether it's whatever, the reality is this core of midfielders is still best suited to the style we're playing now, which is a more conservative, counter-attacking, transitional style. I don't think there is Sadi ball in this team with the midfield core that we have, regardless of what attack we go with. I would love to see Cancelletti back. Zaccagni is great. Tati's great. Tati would definitely help a ton because Tati comes deep. He's able to connect and pass quicker, so we're going to become more dangerous as a team. But I don't think we're going to get Sadi ball whatsoever this season, period.
Do you think anything changed? So you said Rovella, Guendouzi, and then whoever else.
Whoever, yeah.
Do you think Guendouzi is a lock at this point? Because I think even in a match like today, like he wasn't great. I'd say he's not been good this season.
No, I think Guendouzi is a lock because simply he is Sadi. If he was running when Sadi came in initially, okay, so this is a player that probably Sadi was, had a green light, so he liked some of his game, and just that there's no trust in Belayan. Vecino just doesn't have the legs to go at it to start with, right? And then at that point, Dele Bashido, whenever he comes back, I mean, apparently he's being transfer listed, so by default, I think Guendouzi is going to be there because it's the only guy that Saudi seems to somewhat trust of the remaining players. Personally, I would really like to see a Guendouzi Ravella dual eights and then Catali behind them. I think let's try and use Ravella a little more as a box to box instead of as a regista. I think that's going to help in progression. I think that's going to help in chance creation. It's going to help in our press as well. Like imagine Ravella coming in as a box to box with Tati up top as well as Zaccagni and Cancelletti, who's also great, who seems to be a pretty good presser of the ball. Like imagine that front four and Guendouzi, who has legs as well. That front five pushing from the front. I think that could help a lot in our press, and I think it'll improve a lot. And I think we'll get chances on that press. So I personally would love to see Ravella used as a box to box for the rest of the season, unless we go out and sign a real classy center mid with some ball playing, deep line playmaking ability, and some assists in them. I say we run Ravella as one of the eights, and then keep Cataldi, who's been excellent. I think really quite good in the stretch as a six, as just a holding.
Yeah, I actually quite like that, and I love that answer because I was going to ask you if there was any way that you would see us being able to play Cataldi and Rovella at the same time, because I do think in terms of the talent and what we have, those two are probably the most important midfielders, given how Guendouzi has seemingly regressed this season. I still think there's a player there, of course, and maybe it's just needing to find his buddy Rovella next to him. But
Yeah.
So
Like even like I would love to see like some like late runs in the box from Ravella. Like Guendouzi doesn't really do that. He very much is a lateral player. He likes to kind of recycle. Like allow Ravella to make those late runs into the box. When Zaccagni's about to cross it in, let him have it. Use his engine. So yeah, I'm very. I think that is how we get the best quality midfield on at the same time. And I don't think initially I would have said at the beginning of the season, hey, let's go to 4-2-3-1. run just a pivot of Guendouzi, Ravella, and then keep keep Tati and Dia or as a duo, right? Or Tati Noslin. But I don't think that Dia at all is worth dropping Cataldi for. And so I don't think that's going to help our attack at all. So we might as well just improve our press, be a better pressing team, have some more legs in the midfield, and just really go all in on this counterattacking style. And I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I don't see it happening, but I like it, and would love to see that trio with Guendouzi, Rovella, and Cataldi, given how important Cataldi's been for us. And like you said, I think just allowing Rovella to be a little bit more progressive will hopefully see the much needed goals that we have sorely been lacking from this midfield. So, well, whether it is 3 points for Lazio or us doing our part in knocking Roma off the top of